Hello and welcome. We're talking tonight about sex trafficking. We talked last week about this too. We are following up tonight and talking more about the girls that are involved, the women. Last week I talked with John Choi, who is the Ramsey County attorney, and Terry Williams from the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. And they really kind of set the stage. Now we're going to talk more about how the girls get into being trafficked and how we can help get them out. And with me tonight are two women who work on the front line. My first guest is Beth Holger-Ambrose. She is the executive director of The Link, which is a wonderful nonprofit. And I'm going to have you describe it in a minute, but I want to also introduce, before we ask Beth about The Link more, to Quisha Stewart. Quisha is the division director of a very important part of The Link called Safe Harbor.
Yes.
We'll have you explain what that entails too, but welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I have so many questions for both of you. But first of all, how long has The Link been around?
Sure.
And there's an interesting story about the founders.
Yes, definitely. So we're really fortunate to have two incredible founders, Jim Marshall and Oscar Reed, who used to play for the Minnesota Vikings. So they founded The Link 27 years ago in North Minneapolis because they felt like there needed to be some support, some additional support for youth and young people that were experiencing poverty, homelessness, who were getting recruited to get involved in crime or who were being victimized by crime. So they started what was the professional sports linkage with the two of them volunteering their time. They worked really hard, and then from their vision and mission, we've grown The Link, which has been, the name has been changed to The Link with their permission, shortened down a little bit. And in the 27 years, we've grown from 2 volunteer employees to 164 staff. We are a youth and adult-led organization, which does make us a little bit different than traditional nonprofits because we have a typical nonprofit board of directors, but that has former housing program participants, youth that have lived experience on our board. And then we also have 4 youth advisory boards that are help to guide and lead our organization, design all of our programs, hire our staff, make sure we're doing a good job.
So you spend a lot of time listening
Yes.
to what they can tell and
Yes.
teach you. And 164 staff, did you say?
Yes.
And not all working with sex trafficking victims, though, correct?
No. Some of them work in, we have 2 other divisions, or actually I should just say we have 3 divisions total of youth programming that align really well with one another. One's called our Juvenile Justice Program Division, which provides programs for young people that have been engaging in juvenile crime to really help them figure out, okay, what's the underlying causes of what's, getting you to get involved in crime, and how can we help you? Because we know they're good kids, we know they're great young people, and they just need a little bit of support because they're probably struggling with something in their life, like sex trafficking or homelessness. On the other side, we have housing and services for young people and young families who are experiencing homelessness. So we have 7 housing programs, street outreach, and drop-in center for young people that are experiencing homelessness. One of those is, like I said, specific for young families with, so teen parents with children. The other one, we do have one culturally specific program for youth that identify as LGBTQ. And then we also have our Safe Harbor division, which is made up of a emergency shelter, housing program, and supportive services for youth who have experienced sex trafficking.
And you're the one who has that big responsibility.
Yes.
And you have your law degree.
I do.
And
yes.
Does that come in handy? Because I'm sure you're interacting some with county attorneys and prosecutors and defense attorneys.
It does come in handy to know the courtroom and the processes that are being used by social services, the judicial system. So it allows us to have an informed look into what it takes to have a multidisciplinary team working with different fields and different professionals to make sure that the case plans for the kids are in their best interest.
And it's a complicated business. I mean, I just learned that the average age for these kids that are trafficked is 13. And it just kind of makes a person feels so awful to think of that, but that means there are families that have to be, if possible, worked with also, and I can just see the complexities as I think hard about all of the work you're doing. Can you give us kind of a typical profile of a girl that comes to you? I think people think, oh, it couldn't happen to my daughter or my sister, but it could, couldn't it?
Absolutely. I think one of the key things that I would say is that there is no typical profile. It could be any youth from any part of town, any socioeconomic background. We have youth that have come from two-parent homes. We have youth from broken homes. We have youth from foster care and that are involved in the child protection system. So that is actually one of the myths that we work very hard to dispel, so that people know there isn't one face of exploitation. It can happen anywhere at any time. And as long as there's a void that an exploiter can fill, that's what they're going to look for in how they lure the kids into the life.
So the common theme maybe is why the child is vulnerable, or young person.
Exactly. If they don't have a home, if it's January 15th and it's 10 below zero, you might do some things differently than you would on a regular day if you had options. And when you don't, it makes these kids susceptible to being preyed upon by exploiters.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the other myths, Beth? Because I think there are a lot of myths from what I've guessed.
Yes, it's very interesting. I'm not sure how all these myths started, but there are definitely a lot of myths. I think one of the myths is that people choose to be sex trafficked, and it's something like Pretty Woman, and that's absolutely not the case. It's not glamorous. It's not fun. People aren't choosing to do this. They are forced because of a lot of different reasons, because maybe lack of other options. They're really struggling with poverty or homelessness, like Quisha just said. Other reasons could be because they're manipulated or coerced into it. Other reasons could be that they were born into it and their whole family has been involved in the life, generations, grandparents, parents. So there's a lot of different reasons, but really we don't work with youth that choose to, be raped and assaulted over and over for somebody else's profit. So there's a big myth and disconnect about that. I also think there's a big myth that all victims are girls and women. That's definitely not true.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, a variety of academic studies have shown that boys are exploited at equal rates to girls. We also see young men that are being exploited as well as girls, and really any gender identity, and in fact see high rates of transgender young people being exploited because they have a lot of vulnerabilities especially when they're younger, around being accepted, being oppressed by society, a lot of threats of violence, harm, and so those young people are especially at risk.
What about demographics in terms of rural versus urban? Do many kids from outstate Minnesota find their way to the link to safe harbor programs?
Well, fortunately, we have regional navigators throughout the state of Minnesota, and we try to work that system. However, if there's a kid that's from a rural area and they're in the Twin Cities metro area, our staff will go to them, find out what their needs are, get them back home if need be, but to make sure they have the services that are needed at that time.
And I'm guessing the services outstate are pretty far and few between.
That's what we hear. There's definitely a shift. It doesn't look the same from region to region. We're in the West Metro region, and we serve Scott Carver and Hennepin County. So we're fortunate to have more social or service providers in our region than others do. However, we work with our partners to, if we needed to bus a youth here and they come to our shelter, we'd be willing to do that as well, because when it all comes down to it, it's a state effort and not just our region.
Right, and what I would add to that is just that we do see young people from all over. So we see young people that have come from rural areas, from reservations, from the suburban areas, which oftentimes, again, another myth, people think this doesn't happen in our neighborhood and in our suburbs. We've seen youth from suburbs as well as the inner cities.
Are most of the kids is there a most category? I'm just guessing most might be homeless kids, but am I right? Is that?
I would say homelessness is an issue that affects majority of the kids now, whether it's actual homelessness or perceived homelessness, because there are some kids that just don't want to follow the rules at home, or there are kids that leave home and have the option of coming back, but for some reason they don't feel that it's safe, or they don't feel that it's in their best interest. So we see both sets of kids, actually homeless and those that are in potentially temporary situations that cause hardship that prevents them from being at home. Would you agree with that, Beth?
Yes, yes.
Can you describe kind of a typical way a young girl, whether she is homeless or perceived homeless, or for whatever reason is on the street, how they are lured, and maybe lured is not the right word, but how they are persuaded to get involved with a John, with a pimp? How does it?
A variety.
Again, there's no one way, but is there some kind of things we as citizens should be watching out for so that we have some sense of what's going on here, that kind of thing?
Well, again, we take a lot of our information from our survivors, our youth survivors, and the information they tell us is that it'll happen when kids are at school. You'll have exploiters that will just hang out around the school and see that one kid that's separate from the entire group. Or there'll be an older gentleman that will throw a party at his home under the guise of the younger relatives having a party, and they'd actually have the kids come in, all kind of drugs are passed around, and when they're in an altered state, these exploiters take advantage of the youth, and oftentimes they use pictures to basically bribe kids and say, if you don't participate in this life, then I'll put these pictures on Facebook, or I'll let your parents know what's going on. So
pictures that they've taken of the girl in a compromising
situation. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And sometimes they're courting them in a way too that they're pretending to be someone that is crazy about them, right?
Absolutely.
And they're falling for that.
Our youth come in, and again, we serve kids who have been victims of sexual abuse. They've been victims of homelessness. And so when someone comes around and says, I love you, I'll give you what you need, and there's this honeymoon period where they're purchasing whatever the kids ask for. They're making sure the girl's hair is done, their nails are done. These may be youth that have never had new clothes or shoes before. And an exploiter is going to come in and capitalize on those voids or those desires that a kid has, and then slowly but surely take that away. If you're a youth that has never had it, and all of a sudden you have it without even having to ask for it, the risk of losing that is great. And these are kids. Their brains are still developing, and they are still developing emotionally, so they're lured in that way oftentimes as well.
The other thing I would add on to that is I completely agree, of course, and I would just add on that there is, although any youth could be at risk, the youth that are at most high risk are those who are experiencing homelessness or who've run away from home, as Quisha alluded to, youth living in foster care, youth who've been previously sexually abused, because pimps and traffickers are smart. They're going to look for young people, whether it's girls or boys, that have a vulnerability and aren't getting their needs met. And then they're going to figure out what that need is, whether it's love, attention, a safe, a so-called safe place to sleep at night, friends, whatever it is that they need, and they're going to provide that money. They're going to provide that, but in the beginning, oftentimes they do act as a boyfriend or girlfriend, someone that's really interested in them, even though they may be 20, 25 years older. But then they flip the script on them, once they're recruited in, and get them addicted typically to whatever drug they're selling, and then use that as a way to continue to manipulate the young person to stay in the life, as well as with pictures, threats of violence, all kinds of horrible
real
things.
Intimidation
Yes,
going on.
definitely. To themselves, their family members, if they have babies, to their children.
And drugs, is that pretty universally then an additional layered problem along with the trafficking per se?
Not always, but usually, because there are many, not all I should say, but many traffickers that are both dealing human beings and drugs, and they just align well with each other, because if you get those youth addicted to whatever you're selling, you can, help them continue.
And it's a way too, I'm thinking, to numb.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Numb the experience.
Yes. Definitely.
We see both sides. We see youth who use drugs to numb themselves
Yes.
from the experiences that they have, but then we also see youth who have become addicted to drugs by way of their exploiter. This is the exploiter's way to exert power and control over the youth. And so once they're addicted, if they are 14 years old, they're not going to be able to get a job to support their own habits, and is the issue. The exploiters are there to be able to control them through the drug use.
A double whammy, isn't it, for the kids?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Is there any average in terms of how long a girl is part of this horrible world before she's able to get out? Again, varies.
Yeah, this definitely varies. I mean, we've seen some young people that have been involved in the life for a few months. We've seen others. Sadly, I just got a phone call a couple days ago, or over the weekend, from a young person we've been working with who has been involved since she was 9, and she's now 21.
Oh, wow, and she's still involved.
Yes, off and on. So it just really varies.
Yeah, so a really wide range. And in terms of getting out, do they typically have to find a resource like the link in order to make the break? I'm guessing it's very hard if you are dependent in many ways, both on drugs and for housing, et cetera, to get out as a young girl who's kind of been brainwashed.
Yes, I would definitely say it helps our youth exit the life sooner when they're connected to resources. That's one of the things that I'm grateful that we have in our division. Our agency was wise enough to make sure that we have resources on site for the kids so we can address their education needs, their health needs, their mental health needs, and I think that increases the chances of youth exiting the life because those needs are being met by people who care and don't expect anything from them, as opposed to relying on exploiters on the street to meet those needs.
So women like yourselves and staff at the link must seem to them just like angels, you know.
Some days, not always, not always.
Oh, well, you've got to be, setting boundaries too, of course. For those who maybe didn't see the show last week when we talked more about the men who were doing the trafficking, and some women, but mostly men, the average trafficker is white, middle-class male, and I think that's something that's kind of an underground thing yet in our society. I'm wondering, where do those men take the girls? I mean, of course, there are some hotels perhaps that are known, but what's the range in terms of where they end up?
What I would say is that there's trafficking happens in multiple different ways and venues. We see young people that are trafficked definitely in hotel rooms. We also see young people that are trafficked out of private parties, different things like that, traveling from different parties in different cities. We also see young people that are obviously trafficked online, a lot. That's almost always, it's part of it. We also see young people, that are trafficked through other ways too, like maybe certain houses that are known for kind of what they call like drug houses or party houses, things like that. So
a wide range.
Very wide range.
And the Super Bowl now is coming up in a couple weeks. Are you feeling that there's going to be a big uptick in terms of trafficking? I know this is perhaps a myth too, isn't it?
Yes. So
speak to that, would you, Beth?
Sure. So there's definitely another myth where large events like the Super Bowl or the All-Star Game or things like that will attract more traffickers and more trafficking victims. And I think if you have any larger event, there's a potential for any crime to go up just because you have more people in town. And we do have some research locally done, thankfully, by a great researcher named Dr. Lauren Martin at the University of Minnesota, who did kind of a prevalent study that was around the prevalence of trafficking and if it was increased at Super Bowl events or large-scale events. And actually what it was found was there's a slight uptick, but not as much as everybody thinks. So I do think that the big thing we want to say is that the Super Bowl has been an incredible experience for the link, as well as the whole anti-trafficking field, to get the awareness out about what trafficking really looks like and to try to build more awareness and more help for these young people and adults, victims. However, it happens every day. It's happening right now, happening every day. There does not need to be a Super Bowl in town for sex trafficking to happen.
So as people in the community, we don't want to say when the Super Bowl's over, now we can forget about that problem and move on to something else.
No.
It's really an opportunity then to increase our knowledge, our awareness. And I've learned so much just working, on this interview and the one last week. And I'm a social worker, and so I realize we all need to really learn more. How do you think people can best get more educated? I mean, you've got a great website, that's one way, but what are some of the other ways we can get involved and learn more?
I think through going, attending a training, which the Link ourselves do a lot of trainings, but so do other people. There's a great resource list of different opportunities to learn more on the Women's Foundation website, as well as ours. And so that's, learning about different community trainings. There's many that are free or low cost to go to. Also, there are several ways you can get involved to learn more through volunteering at organizations like The Link or Breaking Free or Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center to learn more about the issue as you're volunteering. So I think those two things really help a lot.
And if a girl is watching and wants to start getting out of what she is doing, what do you say to a child who may be watching now and is feeling desperate but maybe not ready?
I think both of us should answer this one, but I would say to that young person that you have not done anything wrong. We care about you so much, and please call or text us any time of the day or night, 612-232-5428, and we will have someone come up and not judge you and help you with what you want to help with, and you can kind of direct your course of what you want us to do.
So 612-232-5428. So either text or call.
Right.
And that's 24/7.
24/7, yes. Most of our programs are open all the time, which is good and sometimes hard.
Sometimes hard for staff.
Or what would you tell a young person?
What would you say to a young girl who may be watching this interview and saying, I'm so scared, I want to get out, but I don't know how?
First of all, I would say you're not a prostitute. No matter what you've been told, you have been prostituted. There's an act that has been done or performed on you, but that is not who you are, and you deserve to live a life free of abuse of any sort. And we're here 24 hours a day to help. We deal with youth who think they're ready and they're not. We deal with youth who are ready to get out of the life. We deal with youth who can't see their way out, no matter where you are in that space, what stage of change you're in. We have someone that's willing to sit down and talk to you and make sure that your needs are met in a way that doesn't cause you harm.
And when you say, Quisha, that a girl may be not ready to get out, what do you do with that girl? I mean, just in a couple sentences. We're close to the end here.
Okay, so for someone who may not be ready to get out, I'd find out why and what it is that they think they have to lose, because oftentimes they're convinced of things that are not true. And so we would work hard to let them see that they are priceless and their bodies don't need to be for sale, because they deserve to live a life free of abuse and harm. And so we let them know we're here. Whenever you're ready, we reach out, continuing to be an available resource, and then plant that seed and hope that one day that they'll come in and receive our services.
And the campaign slogan from the Women's Foundation, Minnesota Girls Are Not for Sale,
That's right.
is very catchy, isn't it?
Yes.
And I mean, that's what you're telling them individually too, right? I'm getting a signal that we need to put your website up too, and we want to do that. Do you want to give it, Beth, your website?
Sure, our website's www.thelinkmn.org.
We'll put that up. And also then the phone number again, which is 612-232-5428.
Yes.
I think we still have a minute left. The stigma that goes along with having been in this kind of a life, can women get over that as they get, and girls get further away from it? Is that something you're finding that
Yes.
they can let go of at some point?
I will say young people that have been in the life or have been sex trafficked are some of the most amazing, smartest, most insightful, sometimes the most funny people I've ever met, and they're truly incredible and have a strength beyond belief, and they can definitely heal from it. I think they get stigmatized so unfairly by society, and it really frustrates me and frankly makes me pretty angry that they should ever be judged that way. That they are amazing, they've taught me so much. And
That's so hopeful to hear both of you describing what can happen like this, because I'm sure there's a sense of hopelessness that is part of the process to let go of and to move beyond.
We encourage them to know that they've been victimized, but you're a survivor. You're not a victim. You are a survivor of exploitation, and our job is to help you thrive after you made it through something so horrible.
Well, on that very positive statement, I need to say goodbye to both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
coming
us.
down.
Thank you for
and,
having us.
Thank you for all you're doing on the street and with
No problem.
the kids. It's amazing organization.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you too for joining us. I hope you've learned like I have. It's such a learning curve, I think, that our whole society is having to go through and needs to go through. So thanks for watching. Check out the link, and I'll be back next week. Bye-bye.